Ministry with Pastor Dennis Martin, where we talk everything and all things ministry.
Well, hey, everybody, it's Pastor Martin, and it is Wednesday. That's right, it's Wednesday. That means that we are getting ready to talk ministry, and I've got to do just a few maintenance things here, but we'll be ready to go in just a moment as we're going to talk ministry. So it gives you time to come in, today as we deal with this very important topic today, and I know it's going to bless you. So let's look at a couple things. Give me just a moment. Let me do it here as we are talking ministry today. And I know it's going to bless you as we're getting into this on today. So let's see. All right. We're getting everything together. Everything's coming together. And we're getting ready to talk ministry on today, and I know it's going to bless you. Come on in. All right, here we go. Let's talk ministry with Pastor Dennis Martin. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'm grateful every week I get a chance to talk to many of you, and so many respond in such a positive way and get so many positive feedback and talk to so many about talking ministry and the things that we're sharing with you concerning ministry. And so today we're going to be talking about, as a leader, who is in your ear. And so if you know someone that is a leader, please, by all means, share this with them, share this with your contacts. It's going to be a blessing, because as we deal with this very important matter and subject and topic today, I know that it will really enhance and really help us to be able to discern some things to help us as leaders, and not just leaders in the church, but leaders in every area of life. Because even though we're talking ministry today, we're also going to be talking about the various things as it relates to leadership or leaders, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's in the marketplace, whether it's at your church, or whatever it may be. We're going to be talking about as a leader, who's in your ear. And I know that sometimes these things are subjects that we don't like to deal with, but the important things that touch our lives every day. We find that every day we are dealing with these particular matters, and some of these things we've been dealing with for years, and maybe we have not addressed them, but we want to address them on today. As a leader, who is in your ears? As a leader, who is in your ears? And I want to say to you today, this is going to be very real, very transparent. I'm going to share with you, and we're going to talk real today, because I believe as leaders, we need to understand that it is important for us to know that we lead. And no matter what part of leadership you're in, if you got those that follow and those lives, other people's lives that are affected by our decisions and by the things we do and say, then it is important for us to be accountable, to see and to discern who is in our ears talking to us, whether it's advice or whatever it may be. We need to find out who is in our ears. That's a very important thing. One of the things I want to first start off by saying is dealing with the counsel that we have, the counsel that we should have. when you read in the scripture, you find these particular words in Proverbs, where it says, Proverbs 11:14 says, where no counsel is, the people fall. But in the multitude of counsel, there is safety. There's safety. You've got to know that we need counsel. All of us, no matter who we are, need counsel. We need someone to share, someone to talk with us. It says, without counsel, are disappointed. Purposes are disappointed, but in the multitude of counsel, they are established. So we deal with counsel. Then he says, for by wise counsel thou shalt make war, and in the multitude of counsel there's safety. Here again, he talks about there being safety in counsel. So we've got to understand that it's important for us to be able to discern the counsel that even we as leaders get. And sometimes we get counsel, and then sometimes we've got a circle. We've got a group of people that are with us or around us, a group of people that we maybe talk to, and they may share things, whether it's about the ministry or other things that we may not be abreast on. They may share it with us, and other circumstances and situations that come up, they may deal with them in a way that we may not know. And so we have to be where someone is in our ears. But the question is, who is in our ears? The people that's in our ears, what are they saying to us? What are they dealing with us? What are they giving us while they're in our ears? And one of the things I think that we want to first look at is, as a leader, who's in our ears? We want to find out and discern if the persons or the people that are in our ears are spiritual or they're carnal. Because sometimes what you have is we're trying to do spiritual things and lead in a spiritual way. And we've got to deal with some other things that are not spiritual, but they're natural. But then we've got people in our ears, and sometimes the people that are in our ears, they're not spiritual. They're carnal, and they like to deal with everything in a carnal way. Then you've got some that are spiritual, and they don't deal with the things. And so it can be a thing that we've got people in our ears that are dealing with things that we do not deal with them the proper way. Sometimes when you have unspiritual people in our ears as leaders, and they are carnal, and they want you to deal with things a certain way. For instance, sometimes when things happen with people in our churches and ministries or whatever it may be, sometimes we'll talk to somebody and they'll say, well, this is the way you should do it. You should have did it that way. And I would do it this way. And I wouldn't take nothing. And I wouldn't take this. And I wouldn't take that. And then we understand that that may be the wrong person in our ear, because we have not, first of all, did it biblically how to deal with a situation. The Bible tells us if you at the altar and you're presenting your gift to God and you remember your brother got an ought against you, he tells you leave your gift at the altar and go and be reconciled with thy brother. That's the first thing he tells us to do. But if you got a person that's not spiritual in our ears or in your ear as a leader, they will want you to respond in a carnal way as opposed to responding in a spiritual way. So you've got to discern if you got spiritual people or carnal people, because sometimes as pastors, we have to be accountable and just say and tell the truth. Sometimes we've got spiritual people and sometimes we've got carnal people. You got people that, they'll say, I'll go get them for you, pastor. I'll go. And we've got to know who we have in our ears, whether they're spiritual or whether they are carnal. We need to know that. And so the question is, when you start discerning and looking at it as a leader, whether it's a pastor, a leader in a position or whatever, even in the workplace, who is in your ears? Who's the person that's talking? Who's the person that's giving you or me advice? Are they spiritual? Are they carnal? And if they're carnal, they may lead us to make a decision that may not be a good decision. Most of the time, if it's somebody that's possibly spiritually or spiritual, they may say things to us that may help us to make spiritual choices or even to make a natural choice, but to put a spiritual application to it where we would still make the right decision. And so it's important for us to understand as leaders who is in our ears, because if they're the worst thing you can do is just surround yourself with people that are unspiritual, and then some people that are spiritual that don't even know how to deal with the natural things and the natural part of things. So you've got those things. And so you need to know. Now, I began to read some in 1 Kings chapter 12 that was very interesting. And I want to share it with you because I believe it'll bless you as a leader. In 1 Kings chapter 12, the Bible talked about Rehoboam and Jeroboam. And Rehoboam was the son of Solomon. And it talks about how they came together and how Rehoboam was getting ready to be made king. And while he was getting ready to be made king, when Jeroboam heard of it, they came, and what the Bible talked about when they came, and they began to talk to Rehoboam, saying to him that thy fathers made our yokes grievous. Now therefore make thou the grievous service of thy father. And so they began to talk to him about the things that they needed or wanted to do. They said his heavy yokes, which he put upon us, if you will lighten them, and we'll serve thee and do those things. And so the king, the Bible said in verse 6, and the king Rehoboam consulted with the old men that stood before Solomon his father while he yet lived. And he says, how do you advise that I may answer the people? And if you notice, the Bible says, when they begin to speak to him, they said, if thou wilt be a servant unto his people this day, and will serve them and answer them and speak good words to them, they begin to say, look, if you do that, then they will be your servants forever. But verse 8 says, but he forsook the counsel of the old men, which they had given to him, and he consulted with the young men that he had grown up with him, and which stood before him. And they said unto him, when he asked them, what counsel give ye that I may answer the people that they spoke to me? They said, make the yoke which thy father did put upon us lighter. And the young men that had grown up with him said unto him, thus saith thou, speak unto the people, thou shalt speak unto them, saying. And notice what they begin to talk about. He said, speak unto them, saying that we're going to do some other things. We're not going to allow those things to happen. We're going to do some other things with you. And so as they begin to talk, he says, they made our yokes heavy, but make thou them lighter. And so the younger men says unto him, don't do it. Don't make it lighter. Thy little finger shall be thicker than my father's loins. He says, don't make it lighter. What you need to do is tell them that you're going to make it worse. You're going to chasten them with whips. You're going to do worse than their fathers did. And so after 3 days that he had told them to leave, when they came back, they began to answer. And when he began to answer them, he talked rough to them, and he forsook, the Bible said, he forsook the older men's counsel that they had gave him. And he spake unto them after the counsel of the younger men, saying, my father made your yokes heavy, and I will add to your yokes. Now understand that when he did this, he created a problem that he didn't need. But the issue here and the problem is that he had took counsel. Now, instead of taking the counsel of the old men that had grew up with his father, that had served with his father Solomon, the Bible said that he decided that he was going to take the counsel and consulted the young men, or the men that grew up with him, his peers, his people that were right in that age group with him. He grew up with, he took their counsel, and they said, look, don't make it lighter, make it heavier. And you would have to go and read the story in 1 Kings chapter 12, and you'll find that a lot of things happen in that because of the wrong counsel. And so I say to you that it's important for us to know who's in our ear. Sometimes we have people, and I'm not against, because sometimes older counsel can be not good and younger counsel cannot be good. But let me say to you that, sometimes you got to listen. And what happens in many cases is we do not listen to the old counsel. We feel that that's old timey, that's old fogey, that's not good. But you got to understand that you will never, and I say this, you will never get past those that have experienced it, that has the wisdom of it, that have been through it. You never will get past that. And sometimes to sit down and to get that wisdom, even as pastors and preachers, sometimes we need people that have been there, done that can counsel us and share with us and share some wisdom with us. And so what happens to us is many times we miss out because we've got spiritual, carnal, then we forsake the counsel of the old, and we get with our peers and they tell us all the stuff that they're doing and what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. And sometimes down the road, that's why I tell people all the time that when you start a church, I don't care how big your church is now, when you started and you say within a year, look what has happened within a year. Look what's happened within 4 or 5 months. That's wonderful. But now come talk to me 10 years from now, after you've been through some splits, after you've been through some things that people wanted to be in your position, take your spot, people that have given wrong counsel, people that have talked in people's ears. And if you're still standing and surviving after that, then we're going to take what you're talking about and we're going to say great things. Because a lot of times we don't understand, we can have the wrong people in our ear and mess up a whole bunch of things. And with Rehoboam, he had the wrong counsel in his ear, and he forsook the counsel of the old men, and he went with the younger men. Well, another thing we've got to do as leaders, we got to watch what we've got as far as who's in our ear. As leaders, you've got to watch, and this is going to hit direct. You've got to watch other leaders that's in your ear about other leaders. You've got to watch that, because sometimes we can have even friends or people that we know that are in our ears about the wrong thing. And sometimes when they're sharing things, sometimes the stuff they're sharing is because of a personal experience they had or because of some type of hurt they may have encountered. And so rather than giving you sound advice, they will get in your ear, and you allow them to get in our ears, and they'll say stuff about other leaders. And we have not allowed the other leaders the opportunity to actually prove themselves or be themselves, or to prove in any other way that what that person said to us was not correct. So many times what we do is somebody come and say, well, have you heard? Well, have you heard what? Well, Martin ain't no good. Martin did this, Martin did that. Well, here's the thing. If you haven't talked to Martin, the first thing you probably shouldn't do is just take what somebody tell you. You should come talk to Martin first. You should deal with Martin, because you may find out that that's some personal going on between Martin and the other person. And so we should deal with each other and talk with each other. And so as leaders, we've got to be careful who we allow to get in our ears, even as other leaders. We can't allow other leaders to get in our ears and to destroy other leaders in our minds and in our spirits, especially when we have not went to talk to those persons. When you don't go to talk to them, sometimes you got to talk to people. You got to sit down and talk with them. Let me give you, I've got a few transparent moments I'm going to give you today One I'm going to give to you. I remember years ago, and I'm just going to be very direct and honest with you. I remember years ago, I think it was, I forgot what year it was, it may have been 96, when we had an election in Church of God in Christ. And Bishop G.E. Patterson, he threw his name in the hat to be presiding bishop. And that was the year, I think, that they said that he lost by one vote. I never forget that. Said he had lost by one vote. And so, of course, there was a little contention between Bishop Owens and Bishop Patterson. And Bishop Patterson was like a mentor, a spiritual father to me. Bishop Owens was my jurisdictional bishop. And so, so here I am as a young elder. I'm not pastoring at that time. I'm in between this. And so I'm trying to use wisdom in how to deal with this. And so I'm in the middle of that. And I'll never forget, we were in a meeting and someone was making comments. And basically the comments they were making, they were basically making them toward me, because it was nobody else, as far as I remember, that was in the room that was maybe connected to Bishop Patterson like I was at that time. And so what I decided to do, this was my leader. So I went up, and his adjutant was at the door in his office once we got through with the meeting. And I asked him, could I come and, ask Bishop, can I speak with him? And he said, Bishop said, come in. And I went and I began to talk to Bishop. And I remember saying these words to him. I said to him, I said, Bishop, I said, I want you to know I love you. I love Bishop Patterson. And what's going on between you two, I have nothing to do with that. And I remember Bishop Owens' eyes becoming watery. And as we were talking, I want to tell you that the next probably 30 minutes I was in that office, we didn't even talk about what was going on. Matter of fact, I did say I heard what was said downstairs. We talked about Bishop Patterson. He talked about their friendship. He talked about this. He talked about that, and just in a positive way. And so I purpose that I would not leave, understand that I would not leave that church without talking to my leader. I wouldn't go out and down him and put him down without talking to him first and sharing with him. I thought that I needed to do that. And sometimes as leaders, we've got to get other leaders out of our ears. We got to go and talk to our leaders. We got to go talk when there's a misunderstanding, when there's something that maybe you don't agree with. Learn to have an open door. Go talk to your leader. Somebody says, well, I can't talk to him. Pray and ask God to give you that opportunity to do that, because it's important that we keep the negativeness out of our ears, especially when it comes to our leaders. Sometimes you got to go and talk to them. And sometimes you have to humble yourself, and we have to humble ourselves and be the first one to go. We can't always wait on them to come. Sometimes you've got to go. And so leaders against other leaders, we got to get negative people out of our ears, because sometimes we have missed out on people that could be a blessing to us, people that can help, because we've got negative things that we are being shared. Sometimes when we got the wrong people in our ear, we're denying ourselves good help. Some people can come in and help you and do things, and we will just deny them. When Bishop Owens, and Bishop Owens was a wonderful leader, love him, still love him today. And but sometimes Bishop had people in his ear, and so sometimes with people being in his ear, sometimes he may it might say something to you, he may not. And I remember the last 2 to 3 years of his life. I don't know what happened, but I became where Bishop embraced me again like he never did before, and he started calling my name, and he said, "My son is back," and I end up doing things. I end up getting called to a meeting, and when I went to the meeting, they were calling me to do the website. I end up being the webmaster. I end up eventually being the communication person, and so all these titles and positions that I hold, back in that day, you never thought I would have held them. But one thing that I did not do, I did not become bitter. I still came to the meetings, and whatever I was asked to do, I did it, and I did it and gave it 100% because I believe that's the way we should serve and do things. And so I say to you that we could be denying ourselves good help as pastors and leaders because of what someone has said to us about somebody or a person. But these people are capable, and you don't know where their loyalty is or what they may do until you have given them an opportunity. And sometimes we don't do that. I'm moving. I'm almost there. I don't want to be long today. And then we've got to understand, and I want to talk to you straight as leaders, whatever leadership position you're in. Some people that we have in our ear have the wrong motives, and they have hidden agendas. They do not, and listen at me carefully, they do not want people to go ahead. They do not want people to excel. They do not want people to go and be whatever it may be. And so whatever they can do to stop people that have potential or stop people that they know could do certain things to enhance, even help you or either help ministry, they will plant negative thoughts in your ear about people, and they will come and they've got hidden motives and hidden agendas. Some things they'll even make up if they can just to keep people from being a blessing to you and being a blessing to what you're trying to accomplish. I found out that there's some people that are just, you got to watch them, even though we have them around us. You got to understand Jesus had disciples, and he still ended up with Judas. And so everybody that you have around you, you always have to ask God to give you the power to discern spirits of even the people around us, those that we think we trust, to know if they've got hidden agendas, if they've got hidden motives, if they're trying to stop something because they don't want someone to surpass them or do better than them. We've got to look at all these things. And I know we don't like to have this conversation. No one wants to talk about it, but it's happening every day. And so as leaders, we must be accountable that we don't miss out and do not call people into accountability when they've got hidden motives and hidden agendas, because some people really do. There's some people don't know anything about you, but they will say whatever it is. I never forget a preacher friend of mine once, someone was talking about him real bad. I mean, talking about him real bad, saying he ain't this and he ain't that and he ain't the other. And the preacher was just listening. He said, "Oh, so you really know this person?" He said, "Oh, yeah, I know him. He ain't no good. He's this, he's that, and he's da-da-da." And he went through. And so when the person got through, he introduced himself. And he said, I'm that individual. I'm the person you're talking about. And the guy almost choked. Said, "Man, I didn't even recognize you." You got to understand, people will run you down and do everything. But us as leaders have got to understand that we've got to have a little more wisdom in how we deal with people coming and talking in our ears. We've got to know even those around us that's got the wrong motives, the wrong agenda, the wrong things that they're buying for. We've got to know that. We've got to see it, and we've got to make it and call them accountable to those things. That's important, because the wrong people can be in our ears. They've got the wrong motives. And as leaders, we've got to do a better job at discerning those that are in our ears. We've got to do a better job as discerning who is in our ears. Do you hear me? Because some people we've got around us, no, we don't want to hear it. Some people we got around us got the wrong motives. They've got the wrong agenda. They are out to get things and to do things. And we've got to know better, and we've got to deal with it better. And so I'm saying to you, let's work on that and do that. Well, I'm moving on. Let's look. Let me give you another transparent moment. Because someone was in someone's ear, one of my leaders' ears, years ago, I did not receive a promotion. I did not receive an appointment. And somebody said, well, how do you know someone was in the ear? I'm going to tell you how. This is the transparent moment. My father-in-law was the superintendent. I was his chairman of the district, and served him. And the last 2 years that he couldn't even make the district meeting, I planned the meeting. Not only did I plan the meeting, but I preached on his official day and turned around and gave him all the money. Didn't take a dime, wouldn't let him give me anything because he was the superintendent. And so when he passed, rather than someone on the district being promoted, the bishop, because of someone's talking or whatever, dissolved it. And so here I am again. You have to know me. I don't, I'm a person that I'm a man. So I went to talk. I called the leader up. I talked to him, and I explained to him why I thought it was done. And he assured me, no, it wasn't done because of that. He said, but, just people, we wanted to make sure. And so I said, all right, Bishop. And so he says, give me the weekend. I'll reconsider it and whatever. And I prayed. This is why you have to pray. I prayed, and that was on Saturday. I prayed and called him back Monday and said to him, Bishop, I thank you for reconsidering and thank you for the opportunity, but never mind. I'm fine. I'm going to go work with someone else. And he got real quiet, and he said, are you sure, son? I said, yes, Bishop, I'm fine. I said, I appreciate you. I really do thank you for reconsidering, but it's okay. I'll be fine. I'm gonna go and work with somebody else. So I went to another district, and after I got to the other district, I went in working. I wasn't a superintendent, still not a superintendent, but I went in working. And so as I went in working, I was going one night. I was at one of our meetings, convocation or whatever, and I was going to speak to the bishop after service because I wasn't bitter. I still had a good spirit. And as I was going up, one of the administrative assistants and superintendent said to me, I heard that since you've been in this district, they tell me you've been one of the best workers they ever had. And I said to them, well, I was just doing what I was taught to do. And they stopped and said, it's amazing how people can get things wrong. So when I heard that meant somebody had been in the ear of the leader, and they had knowledge of what was said. They didn't tell me, and I didn't ask them. But I'm saying to you, sometimes we need to understand that sometimes you're denied things, not because you can't do it, not because you're a bad person, not because whatever, but sometimes you are denied because somebody is in the ear of the leader some type of way. And it may not be your leader directly, could be because if it's a group of people that has to make a decision, they could be in the ear of them in another kind of way. But I just want you to understand that that's a moment I want to share with you to know that that's what happened to me. And I was denied a position. But I never forget one of the supervisors came to me one Saturday when we was in a meeting and said to me, I'm impressed with you. And I said, ma'am. She said, I'm impressed with you. I said, yes, ma'am. Well, what did I do? She said, I've noticed that no matter whether they call your name, whether they treat you right or not, you are always at this meeting. You're always doing what you're supposed to do. And the Lord is going to bless you for having the right attitude. I'm here to tell you it works out. And so I'm saying to us as leaders, we've got to be careful because some people, we have denied certain things to them simply because other people have been in our ear. Here's another moment that I'll be transparent. I know that it may not be something that somebody can take, but let me be transparent. It's my experience and not yours. 2009, from 2005 to 2009 or 2008, 2009, I served as the international president for the Department of Evangelism for Church of God in Christ, the church that I'm a part of. And this is 2019. And as a former president, not just a president in the local, but the international president. And understand, I love my church. I'm very active in my jurisdiction, my district. I go to the meetings. I'm the AIM chairman. I'm communication. I'm very active. But understand something. Let me share something with you of that. It's been 10 years, and I've said this. I mentioned this to one or two people. I said it's been 10 years from being the international president. I've done maybe, I think I presided at an AIM meeting, the local AIM meeting, and preached at a midnight service for evangelism. But besides that, I have not done anything, and I made myself available. I've been around. I haven't been asked to read a scripture, to preside, to preach, or do anything. And I'm a former president and was a good president in good standings. I didn't leave office in disgrace. The leader just decided to go a different way. And that was his prerogative. He had all rights to do that. But what I'm saying to you is every time that I may say something about that, I hear somebody said somebody's in somebody's ear. That's what I always hear. Somebody's in somebody's ear. Well, when I hear that, I just go to laughing. So I'm not bitter, but I'm just sharing with you because this makes the argument or the discussion greater to understand that if you are leaders, we've got to take sometimes our personal things out of things and sometimes deal with people the way we would want to be dealt with if the shoe was on the other foot or if we were the leader. Yeah, we got to deal with that. And I know, oh my God, I know that there are people that may not be able to take what I just said. That's not a slap against anybody. It's not a negative. Before y'all get it wrong, say, oh, no, I ain't talking about nobody. I ain't calling nobody's name. I ain't talking about the leadership of our church. I'm just saying with you what people have said to me, that somebody is in somebody's ear. And so it says to me that we on all fronts and all of us have at one time done and things that happen. And we've got to understand that we must be more accountable, even with the things we do, that we will not allow people to be in our ear, that will not allow people to progress or go ahead because of our personal things that we may hold as leaders. We've got to get past that. Sometimes you got to get past holding grudges or whatever it may be. You got to get past that, and you've got to do that. Well, here again, I'm almost done. The one thing that I want to share with you, with those that are listening, that this, maybe you've experienced this, or those that are I'm sharing with you that you are a leader, and even as being a leader, other leaders have talked against you where you have not been able to experience things because possibly the leader listened at them. I want to say to you, let me say to you, whatever you do, don't become bitter. Don't let bitterness get you, because there's some things that God will not allow you to possibly be in or even to happen for you, because he's got other doors and avenues that he's going to open for you and do things for you. So you can't become bitter. You should never become so bitter that you just want to fight against leadership and you want to go and tell them off. No, that's not the way to handle things, because as a leader, that's not something I would want someone to do with me. And so as leaders, we can't become bitter, and those that these things are done to, you can't become bitter, because all of you are not leaders. Some of you are leaders, but some of you are not leaders. But you know people have hindered you in certain ways. You've always got to keep the right spirit. There was a prophet that used to come to our church years ago. His name was Prophet Floyd Brown. And out of all the prophecies that he ever gave me, there was one that I'll never forget. I wrote it down. It's a part of my life. And this is what he said. He says, fight to keep the right spirit. He said, every king that came into power exalted Daniel, because a more excellent spirit was found in him. And so when I think about that, sometimes you got to keep the right spirit. You got to fight to keep the right spirit. Don't become bitter. Don't let people make you bitter. Don't let people get in your ear and make you bitter. Don't let people cause you to do no. Get around some people that will speak spiritually to you and some people that will speak common sense to you. Get around them and do that. And I believe that the Lord will bless you if you do so. Well, I'm going to get ready to get out of here. So what do? We've got to ask God to help us as leaders to discern, to be able to discern and to know who and what. Let me share this with you. This is a very powerful scripture in the Old Testament that I believe will bless us and help us when we ask God. Solomon, the wisest man that lived, one of the wisest men, he was the wise man. Solomon, with all that wisdom. There's an account of Solomon in 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 16 through 27, where the two ladies had babies, and the third day as they were getting up to feed, one lady had slept on her baby, and the baby died. And she got up with nobody there and swapped babies out with the other lady. And so when the lady got up, she said, "Oh, my baby is dead." The other one, she had swapped babies out. They eventually end up in front of Solomon. And as they begin to relate to Solomon the story, listen at this, as they begin to relate to Solomon the story, the Bible said that Solomon said, "I tell you what you do. Give me the sword, get a sword. I want you to cut the living baby in half. Give one half to one, give one half to the other. And if you do that, then we'll resolve this matter." But it was the mother of the living child that was holding the dead child that said to Solomon, "Don't do that. Let her have the baby. In no wise kill the child. She can have it." Then Solomon, in all his wisdom, turned around and said to them, "Give the baby to this lady that was not willing for the baby to be killed, for she is the mother." Because when she said, "Don't let it be killed," the other lady said, "Yeah, that's right. Cut him in half. Give one half to me and one half to the other." Solomon knew right away that's not the mother, because that's not how a mother would act about her child. The wisdom that he had to deal with that. And as leaders, we must ask God to give us wisdom and discernment that we will know who to keep in our ears and who not to have in our ears. Because some people that we've got in our ears are going to hurt us. They're going to cause us a great disappointment. They're going to cause us great downfall. They're going to cause things to happen that we are not going to be able to turn around and resolve. Why? Because we've got the wrong people in our ear. If it ever was a time to pray with everyone that's so ambitious and everyone that's after everything and will kill anybody to get it, as leaders, we've got to be more. We've got to be more where we discern better to hear and to know who's in our ears. Because I'm like this, anybody that comes and always wants to kill folk, I'm sort of leery of them. Because I understand something. Anybody that will kill them will kill you. They'll kill me. So I'm leery when it comes to those type of things. And so I want to say to you, as a leader, let's ask God to help us to discern. Let's ask for the wisdom of God. Let's pray that we'll know who's in our ears. And those that have been affected by it, somebody being in somebody's ears, don't get bitter. God's got great work for you to do, and that may not be the avenue or the platform or the stage he wants to use you to do it. So just do what God calls you to do. Keep on doing it. Keep helping people. Last week I talked about what advice would the older me give to the younger me, and I received the text from one of my cousins. And we don't talk all the time. We don't see him all the time. And he said to me, "Thank you for the advice. That was just good stuff for me." And he said, keep on reaching the masses. And so I say to you, don't become bitter. Watch who's in your ears. Always watch who's in your ears. When people come with stuff, always listen, because there's always another side to the story. It's not just one side, it's two sides to it. And sometimes you hear the one part and react. Let me say something to you, and this is another moment, and I've got to get out of here for sure. I never forget, years ago, I had someone accusing someone of doing something inappropriate at church. And it was very inappropriate what they accused the person of. And they were so convincing. I mean, they cried and everything, said they did it. And so I called the person and asked about it, and they said, I assure you, Pastor, that never happened. I didn't do that. And I was like, okay. So I said to the other person that came, I said, well, if I were you, I would go to the police and have them arrested. And they sort of were reluctant to do it. And I said, no, that's what I would do. And they were reluctant. So eventually I started watching, and I started noticing that the person that said the person did it, next thing I know, they were taking the person to the store and doing all kind of stuff. And I'm like, really? And so what I found out by being patient and sort of watching and observing and listening, found out that the individual was upset because the person didn't do something that they wanted done. And they went to that extent to try to harm and kill their character and to harm them. And so sometimes wisdom has to kick in. Sometimes we got to watch the people that are just coming in our ears. I've learned over the years to try and ask God to help me to discern, help me to know people, help me to study people, that sometimes when things come, and it don't have to be anything bad, but just when things come, I've got enough to sit down and listen at the whole story before making judgment on it. And then also praying about it, because some things I found out, some things you move swiftly on. Then there's some things you may need to wait and see how it is. I pray and trust that you got something. Thank y'all so much for joining me. Thank you. I appreciate you being here today on this Wednesday. And I just appreciate all of you. Thank you for everything today. Thank you for your comments and all of the things that you're saying. I appreciate you for being here. Listen, I want you to meet me back next Wednesday. We're going to be here. Let's Talk Ministry with Pastor Dennis Martin. And next Wednesday, I want you to be here. We're going to be talking about I want to talk about next Wednesday being pressured to fit, being pressured to fit into some things, fit into ministry, fit into things, being pressured to be who you're not, to sort of fit in. And we're going to talk about that next week. Pressure to fit, because I believe it's going to help you. Some of you, you're going to find out that you're going to be a whole lot better when you just learn to be yourself, and God will bless you. Thank you once again for joining me. Don't forget, before you leave, share this with somebody. Share it with someone that you know in leadership position. Just hit share. Also hit the thing so you'll be able to know whenever I'm coming on live, because I'll pop on and share some things. But please share it with somebody. And don't forget the things that we talked about today, the counsel, spiritual in our ears, spiritual or carnal advice, leaders against leaders. Could we be denying our help? Some people have the wrong motives and hidden agendas, and the transparent moments that I shared with you, and then asking God to help us to discern, and asking God to help us to do things. And then by all means, go and read those two scriptures you need to go read. Go read 1 Kings chapter 12. You want to read that. That's something you really need to read as a leader. You really need to read that. And then 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 16 through 27. You really need to read that, and it'll bless you. Well, may the Lord bless you, and may the Lord keep you until next week when we come back to talk ministry. I know that God is going to bless you. Keep praying for me, and I'll appreciate you being here with me on today. May God bless you, and may all God's best be yours.
Thanks for joining Pastor Martin. Visit us at www.dlmartin.org or email us at rrcdmartin@gmail.com.